Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, your Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 7th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop here. You can see the cutoff low out over the Pacific Ocean here, helping to amplify this ridge across Pacific Northwest. We do have some high clouds moving through the area right now. Look off to the west of Alaska, and you can see the next system is going to slide mainly down, mostly east of the Rockies here, but it will bring some changes here through the Pacific Northwest. We'll check out what those changes might be coming up here in the extended forecast. Taking a little bit of a closer look here, you can see the low clouds across the Willamette Valley, Oregon, Washington coastline. There are high clouds elsewhere, and sunshine underneath those high clouds for the most part across much of the area here. But there are some dense fog advisories for the Willamette Valley down here, but you can see not much of a low cloud coverage across the Puget Sound, at least this morning. And you can see the fires that are still active across the Cascades, still waiting for this big precipitation event that seems to never come here for the Pacific Northwest. Eventually it will come, but it seems like it's taking its sweet time here, especially when you got fires burning and a lot of smoke around some of the metropolitan areas. Now taking a look here, this is, let's go ahead and forward to this morning here. You can see this really didn't pick up a lot of the low cloud coverage across the area for the Willamette Valley. It's a little bit more extensive than this. And as we go on into Saturday morning here, you can see it does show some low cloud activity coming to the Puget Sound, Willamette Valley, and along the coast, of course, but it should burn off by the time we get towards noon here, and we're going to warm up nicely again tomorrow on Saturday. But you can see the low clouds never far off, especially along the coast here for the next few days with this north flow, with this surface ridging out here, keeping that north flow going along the coastlines there. Checking out the Bolt Creek fire. They're doing these updates every day. They're doing a great job from it here. I was checking this out on Highway 2 by Bering down towards Money Creek here, and you can see some active fires from Highway 2 here. Some pretty good smoke going on around the area there. When we have the marine layer, it kind of helps keep the temperatures down and maybe the winds down a little bit here, and it keeps the fire from spreading too much. But we're going to warm things back up again here, and hopefully the fire doesn't start to spread more actively. Now checking this out for Seattle. Look, we got some low-hanging fruit out there today, October 7th, sorry. 75 degrees is the all-time record high. That's only 11 degrees above average here. We might have a chance for that one today as we look like we might be heading up towards the mid and upper 70s here. That record was set back in 2012. So that looks like we might be able to get that record high there after a couple days of below average temperatures here across Seattle. Now, taking a look at Portland here, you can see 81, 12 degrees above average yesterday. Not really near that record high set back in 1952. But we're going to approach that one for 2014, 83 today. Yeah, I mean, so we could both be setting record highs for Portland and Seattle today. We'll continue to watch that through the day. Look at Portland, Oregon. Here they do have the dense fog advisory for much of the coastal range and Willamette Valley, including along the coastline, and that typical air quality alert for the Cedar Creek fire exists. This is Missoula, Montana. This storm system is going to be more of an impact out through western Montana out there. And you can see they bring up some of the chances here for these scenarios as we go. And they're talking about their first widespread frost and freeze out there through Wednesday and Thursday of next week. Now taking a look here, this is the surface pressure here. You can see that cutoff low over the Gulf of Alaska here. And you can see the ridge that does exist over here across Pacific Northwest. Now here comes the next system. You see it swinging through Alaska here. And check out this fairly strong low pressure system digging down through North Canada. And you can see the cold front as it trails down through Washington. So we are going to get some changes with this system as it comes through. We'll go over those here in a minute. But then you can see the ridge rebuild in the wake of that system here and bring us back our high pressure here across Pacific Northwest. And some of the models have been showing somewhat of a onshore flow returning as maybe a very weak frontal system moves through in the extended. But again, plenty of time to look at that, and things are changing rapidly. We're in the transition period time of the year here where things change quickly. So we'll just continue to watch the extended. Now taking a look here, this is the wind at 5,000 feet. If we put this into motion here, you can see the surface ridge at 5,000, not surface, well, it does show up at the surface there, but this is at 5,000 feet. And you can kind of see the next trough right over the top of this ridge here, go through southeast Alaska. And you'll notice it does start to bring this flow onshore here at 5,000 feet. This also shows up in the surface winds as well. So we're going to clean out the atmosphere, at least western portions of BC, Washington, and Oregon here as we bring that onshore flow. But then look quickly as this ridge rebuilds over the Pacific Ocean here, we're going to start to turn the flow a little bit back offshore again as we go through next week as the ridge returns. Now taking a look here, 5,000 feet, 850 millibars. Look at the warm temperatures aloft over the region here. Put this into motion here, and you'll plainly see the next system start to roll through here. You can see by Sunday night, we still have pretty warm temperatures over the Pacific Northwest, but you can see the cold air really start to encroach on the region here and throw this cold air down across Pacific Northwest. Even though this, the main cold air is up here in North Canada and on the east slopes of the Rockies here, as you can see it dive down, but it does have some impact on our weather, and it will turn the flow back onshore here for probably a day or two. But in the wake of that, you'll notice these warm temperatures aloft rebuild here. Now we're going to take a look at what kind of fog chances we have the following week here also, so stay tuned here for a moment. But then you can see maybe in the extended some colder air moving off the Pacific, but again, that's way out there in fantasy land at this point. Now looking at 500 millibar temperatures here, you can see fairly warm temperatures aloft. The really cold air is way up on the north slope here. Now the next system starts to round through southeast BC, and you can see this just misses us here, moves across the Rockies and down to the east here, and really doesn't affect our temperature too much here. It just brings a little bit of cold air aloft here. So we just get clipped by this system as it slides down the east slopes of the Rockies. And look at all the cold air down here through central Canada here as we go on in through next week. It's going to bring a cold shot down through a lot of the portions of the Midwest and on in through the eastern portion of the country here. And look through the extended, even another lobe of cold air moves through northern Canada here on in through the following weekend here. Now we're looking at the northern hemisphere here. We're going to compare the European on the left, the GFS on the right, 18,000 feet, 500 millibars here. You see the big ridge over the area now, cutoff low over the Gulf of Alaska, Pacific Ocean. Here's BC, Washington, Oregon here. Here's Hawaii out here. Put this into motion. Here goes this polar lobe that's going to throw this cold air down across southeast Alaska. And you can see the little bit of a differences here. Actually, not much. Not too bad. The GFS and the Euro pretty similar here as we drive this cold air down across the region. Again, it stays mostly east of the Rockies here, but it does have an effect on our weather like we showed. It's going to bring some onshore flow. Ridge rebuilds. Look at the GFS really builds this ridge back as we go on in through next week. The European, the heights are not as high well up into British Columbia here. As you can see, the polar lobe is more powerful across the northern portions of Canada here through the extended. Let's go out a little bit further here. You can see that ridge kind of slide off to the east here. The European not as strong with that, more troughing over the Gulf of Alaska. So we'll just continue to watch these differences right now. As you can see, no big precipitation makers are in the forecast right now. This can change really quick, and sometimes we might only have a couple, 2-3 days heads up time as one of these systems dives into the Pacific Northwest. But right now, we are not seeing it. Now taking a look at the GFS, here goes this ridge currently over the area. We're going to play this forward here. In fact, let's go a little bit faster. There goes our polar lobe down the east slopes of the Rockies. Ridge rebuilds here. Now let's look at Friday morning 12Z. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at what our atmosphere across the Puget Sound is going to look like here Friday morning. Now, if I click on that, you can see we will have an inversion. That ridge with the warm air aloft. And look at the temperature here in the morning really drops off here. Light winds down here at the surface, but you can see the air mass is fairly dry. So it's going to depend on how much onshore flow and moisture gets trapped at the surface here on the previous days. Are we really going to be dew point 35 there? Because if we get dew points into the 40s, which is possible near the Puget Sound, you can start to get that inversion in some pretty foggy days here. So that's something to watch. Let's get a little bit more accurate with this here. Now this is Friday at 12Z. I'm going to click on Tacoma, for example. And you can see this here, the inversion, the warm air aloft at 5,000 feet, 10,000 feet, and you rapidly drop off these temperatures overnight. Calm winds at the surface there, so that's a danger sign for fog. We're not that far off between the dew point and the temperature. The depression there is only 6 degrees. Could easily end up with some fog here, so we have to watch out for that next week in our forecast. Now taking a look a little bit closer here, 2,500 feet. This is just kind of showing you, this is a ridge that's going to be, you can see it at the surface at 2,500 feet, 5,000 feet. And you can see this kind of gets smashed as the next system rolls through here. And we really kick some onshore flow here as we go on in through Monday. So it's going to clean out the atmosphere for western portions. It's going to drag a lot of that smoke on in through eastern Washington and Oregon as we go on in through next week. So that's just kind of the impact there of the system. Some of the models are showing some very light precipitation as a very weak front moves through the area, but we'll check that out here in a moment. Checking out the HER 3KM. This is a 12Z. It's only going out 48 hours, but you can see these fires really have the potential to bring in some nasty air condition air quality into the Willamette Valley, Puget Sound, Southwest BC. As you can plainly see, some of this, this is kind of nasty looking here as we go through the day tomorrow. So heads up for the potential for some really degraded air quality western portions, even eastern portions. I mean, look at the fire getting kicked up here as we go fairly warm and dry here through the weekend. So here we go, taking a look at the 0Z, yesterday afternoon's run. Probability of precipitation greater than 0.04 of an inch in a 24-hour period. So as we go into the future a bit here, here's Monday morning 5 a.m. You can see the odds improving for the area, but they really don't ever get too high. Look at the Cascades, only like 20 to 30% here. You can see the better chances out here, the Rockies and east, up north of Vancouver Island mainly, and maybe a bit, look at maybe 40 to 50, 30 to 50% chance across the Cascades for a 0.04 of an inch or greater. But the takeaway from that, of course, is precipitation chances not good here across Pacific Northwest, even for the Cascades. You can see, of course, better off Missoula and east, and then you can see the ridge really rebuild. Look at this. Alaska stealing all the rainfall again through the extended here, even the south coast of Alaska as you get out towards the following weekend there. And the ridge continues to dominate the west coast of North America here in the Pacific Northwest. And then maybe some potential eventually here at the end of the outlook here or the forecast here, maybe some precipitation returning. But again, this is way out towards the end of mid-October here, the 21st here. So we'll just continue to watch that at this point. Things can change rapidly, so I'm not getting too caught up in this yet. But right now, we have a strong signal for ridging coming through the next week here. Now taking a look here, Crater Lake, Klamath Falls Regional Airport. So this is Klamath Falls. You can see nice warm temperatures, chilly overnight lows. We go through in early next week. And you can see the impacts of this trough. It's going to move by. It's going to drop us down probably back towards 70 degrees or down towards the mid 60s here as we go through the beginning portions of next week. And we'll continue to watch that fog development possibility as we go through next week. Vancouver, you can see the little bit of a cool down coming early next week as the system moves by. Portland, you can see a few days chop down those high temperatures as we go through Monday, Tuesday, then bounce back as we go through next week and the ridging returns. And just kind of a miserable precipitation signal here for SeaTac. You can see the control actually had what, maybe 600-700ths of an inch of rain coming through here, but the mean is down towards 200ths of an inch. And a lot of these runs are still dry here, so not expecting much precipitation at all. You see the little bit of a bump of that cold air come through here as we go through Monday night to Tuesday morning. A little bit chillier here at 850 millibars, but still this system is likely to miss us to the east. And you can see Seattle Tacoma on the GFS showing just a little bit of a bump there at 500 millibars and 850 millibars here with the temperatures. And then you can see how things get more chaotic through the extended as the mean and the control start to disagree as we go on in through later mid-October. Stevens Pass, not much better here. You can see generally the mean and the control say about 0.04 of an inch. Not a good precipitation signal at all. The GFS is similar, only a few runs showing precipitation. Then you can kind of see the chaotic nature of looking off into the extended forecast there. Bend, Oregon, not much more help. You can see very unlikely any precipitations coming with this frontal system. And then, just a few members showing something way off in the distance there. Spokane, you can see a little bit more impact of this cold air as it moves overhead here in 850 millibars, 5,000 feet as well. Helena, further east, a little bit more cold air, as you can see here. It makes sense, right? As that system's going to slide down east of the Rockies. Now, I want to show you this one more time here. I was going to point something out here, but you can see as we go through, this is a monthly forecast. La Nina still in charge through January, starts to wane by the time you get to spring. So I pointed that out the last couple of days here. But now look in here, you can see we do have some we have the probability here for some enhanced rainfall as we go through November, December, and January. So we're just going to continue to watch that. But what I want to point out here is that the signal looks very strong here for a high pressure system to be out here over the Pacific Ocean here, maybe across the Aleutians. But this is important here. The placement of this ridge here means everything. If it's too far to the east, we get these systems shunted down east of the Rockies, and we tend to spend more of our time in ridges and very weak systems and not get those dynamic systems. If this thing sets up a little bit further west, that opens up the troughing, cold air intrusions for the Pacific Northwest, and much more dynamic weather systems to move through the area. Pretty good signal showing up in January there for that ridge of high pressure here. We would have that northwest flow allowing this troughing here across Pacific Northwest. But as we saw last year, we had this strong high, and it was just a little bit too far east once we got into January, and we really shut down the cold air coming into the Pacific Northwest here. So just something I'd like to point out there. You can also see that high exists there for February too, and a little bit closer there, which would kind of limit the systems moving through the area. But now taking a look here, this is for 500 millibars here, kind of showing that troughing does exist here in the long range signal here for January. So again, that ridge position out over the Pacific Northwest and out over the Pacific Ocean here, and the troughing over the Pacific Northwest means everything on just how cold we get during the winter here during a La Nina year. And when you get this ridge setting up in a good position, everybody remember December 2008, this is a good example of it. You can see the strong ridge offshore here, far enough away where it allows this north and northwest flow to really carve these troughs out over the region here. Now, as we back up a little bit towards December 18th, look at that ridge all the way up into Alaska, allowing this north flow to just blast this huge polar lobe down over the area, brought some pretty good Arctic air into the region. Some significant snowfalls fell across much of the Pacific Northwest here during the month of 2008. So that's what we're looking at when you want that ridge position. If you want lowland snow or more dynamic systems, you need it to set up a little bit further to the west here. And if it sets up a little further east, of course, that can shut off everything across our region here. So big implications on where this ridging will set up, but the signal is strong that there will be a ridge out here across the northern Pacific, which is typical of a La Nina year. So anyway, yeah, we're going to warm up pretty well across the area today. If you're not dealing with that forest fire smoke, try to get out and enjoy that, this nice weather coming up here. We do have the potential for some fog and some low clouds as we go through next week as well. We'll continue to watch that too. That can really throw a wrench into the forecast high temperatures for any portions here. But it looks like we shouldn't have too many morning clouds, and what does form should burn off by late morning, early afternoon across much of the area, even though we do have some dense fog advisories out for the Willamette Valley this morning. So yeah, here goes the next system. It's going to bring some onshore flow and generally just kind of cool us down for a couple days, but not bring much precipitation across the Pacific Northwest. So anyway, we'll continue to watch this. We'll continue that elusive hunt for the big precipitation signal that continues to dog us here in the Pacific Northwest, and hopefully we can put out these fires by the time we get towards mid or later October here. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, and we'll do this again.